We were young, fearless, and drawn to the unknown, always seeking thrills. Abandoned buildings, especially ones shrouded in darkness, held a strange, irresistible allure. The old Mercy Hospital, perched atop Widow's Hill, was legendary and feared. Locals whispered of tragic deaths, unexplained noises, and a malevolent presence that lingered within its decaying walls. One chilly October evening, we found ourselves at its rusted gates, hearts pounding. It started as a dare, fueled by teenage bravado and curiosity. But as we stepped onto the overgrown driveway, a palpable chill settled over us. This wasn't just an adventure, we were trespassing on sacred, haunted ground, feeling uneasy. The air grew heavy as we pushed through the creaking entrance doors, a sense of foreboding washing over us. The stench of decay, a mix of stale air and something sickly sweet, filled our nostrils, making it hard to breathe. Dust-covered medical equipment lay scattered around us, remnants of a time when the hospital pulsed with life, now frozen in a state of neglect. Now, an unsettling silence hung in the air, broken only by the rhythmic dripping of water from some unseen source, echoing through the empty halls. We ventured deeper, our flashlights cutting through the oppressive darkness, revealing shadows that seemed to dance just out of reach. Each echoing footstep heightened our senses, making us hyper-aware of every creak and groan of the building, as if it were alive and watching us. The deeper we went, the colder it became, the chill seeping into our bones. This place wasn't just decaying, it was actively rejecting our presence as if the very walls wanted us gone. The air grew thick with a strange energy, almost as if the very walls were alive and watching us. A low hum vibrated through the walls, seeming to emanate from the very core of the hospital, growing louder with each step we took. We stumbled upon a room filled with old patient files, the pages yellowed and brittle, crumbling at the slightest touch. One file lay open, revealing a photograph of a young woman with haunting, hollow eyes that seemed to follow us around the room. The name beneath sent shivers down my spine. Mary Blackwood, the same name whispered in hushed tones by locals, the name associated with the hospital's dark history and countless eerie tales. As we moved towards the basement door, the metal handle felt icy cold against my touch, as if it hadn't been used in years. We hesitated. This felt like a point of no return, a threshold between the known and the unknown, where shadows held secrets and the air whispered warnings. The basement was a tomb, a place where light dared not linger. The air was suffocating, thick with the smell of mildew and something else, something ancient and evil. It felt as though the walls themselves were closing in, whispering secrets of the past. The shadows here were deeper, moving with a life of their own as our flashlights danced across the walls. Each flicker of light seemed to reveal a new horror, a new mystery waiting to be uncovered. Then we heard it, a low growl that seemed to rise from the very depths of the earth. It was a sound that chilled us to the bone, a sound that spoke of untold horrors lurking just out of sight. Our hearts pounded in our chests as we froze, fear paralyzing us. We exchanged terrified glances, each of us wondering if we would make it out alive. The growl morphed into a gut-wrenching wail that seemed to claw at our sanity. It was a sound that would haunt our dreams, a sound that seemed to come from the very bowels of the earth. We ran, scrambling up the stairs, each of us desperate to escape the nightmare unfolding beneath us. The darkness seemed to reach out, trying to pull us back into its cold embrace. The hospital had shown us its true face. We never went back. The memory of that night was etched into our minds, a constant reminder of the terror that lay within those walls. But the memory of that night, the chilling certainty that something evil resides within those walls, continues to haunt me to this day. Every creak, every shadow, brings me back to that basement. What exactly lurks in the shadows of Mercy Hospital? What malevolent force calls it home? Some questions are best left unanswered. Sometimes ignorance is the only thing that keeps us sane. Gap 3S. The days following our escape from Mercy Hospital were filled with a lingering sense of dread. We couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed us, that the malevolent presence from the hospital had latched onto us. Strange occurrences began to happen, objects moving on their own, whispers in the dead of night, and shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. We tried to rationalize it, to convince ourselves that it was just our minds playing tricks on us, but deep down, we knew the truth. Mercy Hospital had marked us, and its dark influence was far from over. We decided to seek help, to find someone who could understand what we had experienced. Our search led us to a paranormal investigator, someone who had dealt with similar cases. He listened to our story with a grave expression, nodding as we recounted the horrors we had faced. "You have encountered a powerful entity," he said. "One that feeds on fear and despair. It has attached itself to you, and it will not let go easily." His words sent chills down our spines. We had hoped for a solution, but instead we were faced with the grim reality that our ordeal was far from over. The investigator offered to help us, to perform a cleansing ritual that might sever the entity's hold on us. We agreed, desperate for any chance to rid ourselves of the darkness that had invaded our lives. The ritual was intense, filled with chants and symbols that we didn't understand. As it progressed, we felt a palpable shift in the air, as if the very fabric of reality was being altered. The shadows seemed to retreat, the whispers faded, and for the first time since that night, we felt a glimmer of hope. But the investigator warned us that the entity might not be gone for good. "It will always be a part of you," he said. "You must remain vigilant, for it will seek to return when you are at your weakest." His words were a sobering reminder that our battle was not over. We left his office with a sense of relief, but also with a newfound determination to stay strong, to never let the darkness consume us again. The memory of Mercy Hospital still haunts us, but we have learned to live with it, to face our fears and move forward. We are survivors, and we will not let the past define us, but we will never forget the terror that lurks in the shadows, waiting for its chance to strike again. Gap 3S. Years passed, and the memory of Mercy Hospital began to fade, becoming a distant nightmare. We moved on with our lives, each of us finding our own way to cope with the trauma. But the past has a way of catching up with you, and one fateful night, it did. I received a call from one of my old friends, the same ones who had been with me that night at the hospital. His voice was filled with panic, and he spoke of strange occurrences that had started happening again. The shadows, the whispers, the feeling of being watched, it was all coming back. We decided to reunite, to face the darkness together once more. We returned to Mercy Hospital, determined to put an end to the terror that had haunted us for so long. The building was even more decayed than before, its walls crumbling and its halls filled with an oppressive silence. As we stepped inside, the memories came flooding back, and with them, the fear. But this time we were prepared. Armed with knowledge and determination, we ventured deeper into the hospital, retracing our steps from that fateful night. The shadows seemed to close in around us, the whispers growing louder with each step. But we pressed on, determined to confront the entity that had tormented us. In the basement we found the source of the malevolent presence, an old, decrepit altar, covered in strange symbols and surrounded by remnants of dark rituals. It was here that the entity had been summoned, and it was here that we would banish it. We performed the cleansing ritual once more, this time with a sense of purpose and resolve. The air grew thick with energy, and the shadows seemed to writhe and twist as if in agony. But we held our ground, chanting the words that would sever the entity's hold on this place. As the ritual reached its climax, a deafening roar filled the air, and the shadows exploded in a burst of light. The entity was gone, banished back to the darkness from whence it came. We stood there, breathless and exhausted, but victorious. The hospital was finally free of its malevolent presence, and so were we. We left Mercy Hospital for the last time, the weight of the past lifted from our shoulders. We had faced our fears and emerged stronger for it. The memory of that night still lingers, but it no longer holds power over us. We are free, and we will never forget the lessons we learned in the haunted halls of Mercy Hospital. Gap 2S. Just as we thought it was all over, a chilling wind swept through the basement, extinguishing our sense of victory. The oppressive silence was shattered by an eerie, echoing laughter, sending shivers down our spines. The entity had not been fully banished, it was merely weakened, biding its time for a final confrontation. Gap 2S. The altar began to glow with an unholy light, and a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, its form shifting and writhing. It was the embodiment of all the terror we had faced, a manifestation of the hospital's dark past. The air grew colder and the walls seemed to close in around us. Gap 2S. We stood our ground, hearts pounding, knowing this was our last chance to end the nightmare once and for all. The entity advanced, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. But we were ready. We drew upon every ounce of courage and determination, reciting the incantations with renewed vigor. Gap 2S. The shadows around us thickened and the room seemed to pulse with dark energy. The entity lashed out, its tendrils of darkness trying to ensnare us, but we held firm, our voices rising in unison, the words of the cleansing ritual cutting through the malevolence like a beacon of light. Gap 2S. The entity screamed, a sound that seemed to pierce the very fabric of reality. The symbols on the altar began to crack and crumble, the power of our ritual overwhelming the dark forces that had held sway for so long. With one final, desperate surge, we channeled all our energy into the incantation, the light growing blindingly bright. Gap 2S. And then, in an instant it was over. The shadows dissipated, the oppressive presence vanished. The basement was filled with an almost serene silence, the air clear and still. We had done it. The entity was gone, its dark secrets finally laid to rest. Gap 2S. As we left Mercy Hospital for the last time, we felt a profound sense of closure. The terror that had haunted us for years was no more. We had faced the ultimate darkness and emerged victorious. The past could no longer hold us captive. We were free. Gap 3S. The haunted halls of Mercy Hospital would remain a memory, a testament to our resilience and courage. And though the scars would never fully fade, we knew we had conquered the darkness within and without. Our story, our nightmare had finally reached its end. Gap 3S. But in the depths of the night, sometimes we still hear that faint echoing laughter, a reminder of the darkness that once was, and the light that now prevails.